Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
Right, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome along this Friday afternoon to Friday Night Racing, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie or follow on Twitter at HRI Racing. Cheltenham was obviously a stunning success for Irish racing, with all the big races falling our way and a dominant win in the Presbury Cup. It's a sign of the root health of our training operations, the power of the prize money, and of course the quality of the people more than anything else that are working in the industry. There's no doubt though that the biggest story of the week was the Henry de Bromhead RACHAEL Blackmore Axis, which provided some of the best moments that we've ever seen in Irish racing history. I want to bring you right back to the start of the week and Honeysuckle in the Champion Hurdle. Enjoy.
Honeysuckle moves into the home straight with a 2-length lead to Aspire Tower in second. Charger has moved into third. Epatante is behind those in fourth, but Honeysuckle is galloping clear as she races towards the last. A lovely leap. She cleared it safely and heads up the hill now. Honeysuckle and RACHAEL Blackmore clear from Charger. Epatante behind those. It's a beautiful straight. 11 victories for Honeysuckle. She is the winner of the Unibet Champion Hurdle. Charger in second. Epatante, Aspire Tower, not
RACHAEL Blackmore, good afternoon to you. How are you?
Good, thanks, Ger. Definitely good after hearing the finish of that race again.
Have you watched it back a lot?
I've watched it back a few times. Yeah. I haven't overkilled it yet, but yeah, it's very, very enjoyable viewing.
I get the impression it's not going to be possible to overkill that. That it's like any time in the next 60 years of your life, you'll be like, I'm a little bit bored. Flick it on. Thanks very much.
Yeah, that's really what that race is, I think. It's a champion hurdle and it's Honeysuckle, so it's pretty special.
Tom Malone is with us this week as well. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, Ger. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, Tom.
We've been talking about Honeysuckle. Tom, put it in context for people out there, will you? Because we're going to get into the details of Rachel's relationship with it in a moment, but that's a stunning moment in Irish racing history, essentially. Yeah,
absolutely. It was just so brilliant to see her do it. I mean, we've been a Honeysuckle stan account really for the last year or so, haven't we? I mean, a horse to go 11 from 11 is absolutely magical. But I think it's the way she runs that kind of captures the public's imagination as well, isn't it? She just, like Rachel gets on so well with her, obviously, but incredibly positively ridden. And, you kind of, you never really, the result isn't really in doubt. Even at Leopardstown at Christmas, taking it up so early, similar situation in Cheltenham as well, where, just be so positive and in such a positive position right throughout the race that really, I mean, Rachel, as a rider, it must be just the most brilliant feeling that you can kind of sit wide, you can sit back a little bit, you can be up with the pace. You've just so many options, and then it's just a matter of time before you go and ask the question.
Yeah, what's that like?
Yeah, look, she's extremely straightforward to ride. She always has been. So you can really just ride her as you find her. I've always ridden her kind of with a little bit of space on the outside, keep my options open. And, when you ask her to move into a gap or to move forward, like she's all engine under you. So it's a great feeling.
The Leopardstown race at Christmas, it was kind of the start of the bandwagon rolling towards Cheltenham, but the win was so cinematic. It really looked like it was kind of out of Black Beauty or something, where all of a sudden she just disappears, and you're like, okay, that's at Leopardstown and it's Christmas and it's obviously a massive race, but it's not quite Cheltenham. When you get to Cheltenham, what the field is going to be like, and then you just do it again. It's sensational.
It's incredible, but I think me and Honeysuckle's story is all down to Henry de Bromhead and how he produces her every day. It's his training of her has been incredible too. To produce her every day in the form he does is unbelievable. And I feel very lucky to be the one on her back. Able to steer her around most of the time.
Is there extra pressure on an event like the one in different races at Cheltenham? You have an expectation that you're going to perform well, obviously, no doubt. But when you have a horse as history making and as potentially as great as Honeysuckle is, do you feel a little bit different? Are the nerves a little bit different in the build up to that?
Yeah, I think they are. It's not every day a jockey gets the opportunity to ride favourite in the Champion Hurdle. and it being her as well, like she's unbeaten, and you know, those things are all definitely, you know, play into it a bit, I suppose.
And with 2 furlongs left to go, or however long it is before you make the move, the final move, is there any doubt in your mind that all the horse is still there the way it was in Leopardstown, or do you already know kind of 3/4 of the way through, actually, I just have to keep this going here because she's in such spectacular form, I can feel how well she's running?
Yeah, look, the race actually went, the race planned out, you know, halfway around, if you could have, you know, radioed to me, I would have said I was happy. Goshen heading off and then coming back in was maybe just one little worry I had. I had to give her, you know, a little bit of a shake up after the third last, but you know, she you have to kind of wind her up a little bit, and I knew the minute I started squeezing her a bit with my legs, I could feel her, you know, feel her under me. So yeah, like it's an incredible feeling when you're at the bottom of that hill and you know that you have something under you that's going to, you know, gallop up it.
How do you not get too giddy? How do you just kind of like, okay, all right, everybody, calm down here, calm down. This is all going exactly to plan.
Yeah, you know, when you jump off, like all this build up and expectation and everything, you know, when you get legged up in the parade ring and you're cantered down to the start, that kind of disappears. At the end of the day, it's just another race. You know, you want to win every race that you're in. This one maybe is more important, but essentially you just ride it like you do other races. And you know, I think a jockey just gets into the zone then maybe, and you know, as I said, just another race maybe.
Yeah, that's obviously a skill. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, so how do you do that, Rachel? I mean, like, you know, Honeysuckle's kind of on the front page of every paper all over the places. There is pressure on you as well as a Cheltenham hurdle champion hurdle favourite. I mean, how do you just block out the noise?
Well, there wasn't much noise there this year, I have to say. But no, I know exactly what you mean. Like I try not to get too wrapped up in like things pre-Cheltenham. You do enough of that yourself. So, you know, I know there wasn't that many of them this year, but you know, Cheltenham previews and people talking and you're reading stuff about it all, and I just try not to get overly wrapped up in that myself, because Cheltenham brings about that on its own, you know.
And I suppose on the day as well, then, like there was a few jockeys that probably didn't cover themselves in glory over the course of the festival. Like, how do you keep that even keel during the race? I mean, like, you're sitting at the bottom of the hill about to win your first champion hurdle. Surely there is how do you just keep a lid on it there?
Yeah, I know what you're getting at, but I don't know, when you're in that race situation, you're just riding another race. You know, you're doing things that you are doing around Clonmel, around Thurles, around Downpatrick. You know, you're just riding another race. You know, I definitely, when I landed after the last and gave her a squeeze on again and she picked up again, then in my head I was like, oh my God, we're gonna win, like we're gonna win a champion hurdle. But like I think up to then, I don't know, I can't explain it. I think you're just, you know, if you're not going to be in the zone, you know, in the last quarter of a champion hurdle, I don't know when you are going to be in the zone, but you're just trying not to get ahead of yourself.
Must be magical feeling all the same.
Incredible. Like, the relief, the joy, everything, like it all kind of compounds into one. And you know, it means so much to me personally, but like it's you know, what has just happened means so much to so many other people who put in so much work into her. You know, to Peter Maloney and his team who look after her when she's on her break, you know, to all the lads in the yard who look after her, like to Henry who's training her, to Kenny who owns her. You know, there's so many people that her winning brings joy to, and yeah, it's phenomenal just to be involved with it all.
Do you remember the first time that you rode Honeysuckle?
Yeah, I do. She's really been progressive. You know, like that day maybe, you know, I didn't think she's going to be a champion hurdle mare, but I really do think it's just the way Henry's trained her and brought her on gently, you know, didn't overface her early on, let her dictate to him maybe what she was happy to do. And like she's really come alive this year. She's picked it up another gear, as you were talking about Leopardstown earlier. You know, she stepped it up again, and it's incredible.
Because before Leopardstown, like obviously the track record was sensational and the direction was going one way, but I don't really remember like the conversation being, well, this is an all-time great, this is an all-time special horse. The Leopardstown performance was really important, I suspect, in terms of just giving everybody that extra confidence.
Yeah, well, I suppose, you know, off the Irish champion hurdle the year before, you know, they weren't chomping at the bit after that to go for the champion hurdle. But off this year's performance, you know, you'd be delighted to go and give it a lash. So yeah, she, you know, people love looking at something impressive as well. You know, maybe, you know, she's never lost, but maybe she hasn't been impressive in some of her earlier races. So maybe that's why people didn't jump on it early. But they've surely gotten on the bandwagon now.
And that cross.
I was on the bandwagon from the start, Rachel. I was there in February, the first day. It actually popped up on my Instagram memories on the night before just before the champion hurdle. I actually found it and I put it up on social. But yeah, it's a picture of you on Honeysuckle on the 14th of November, when the first day she won. Because I think that's one of the things about going racing that we absolutely love. Like, even if you go on an ordinary day and yet there's just a few maiden hurdles and a bumper, there's always just that little ray of hope that maybe you're going to see something magical. And yeah, she's that, like, obviously she won handy enough that day, beat Moscovite, which is obviously a decent performance. I don't think anyone is saying she was going to turn out to be the superstar she's become. But I think when you're talking about just missing out on going racing, that's one of the things I definitely miss out on most. You know, just those days when you think it's just an ordinary day, and then something goes and wins a maiden hurdle by 12 lengths, and you think, oh, geez, actually decent.
Yeah, that's Irish racing though, isn't it? You know, you could be at a point in Turratulla and you could see Bob Ollinger winning, you know what I mean? That's from the point field all the way up to watching maiden hurdles or bumpers. You know, you don't really know what you're watching, so it's that's what's so exciting, I think, about Irish racing.
Will you talk to us a little bit about the relationship with Henry de Bromhead? Take us back to the start. When was do you remember the first time you ended up getting booked for a ride for a de Bromhead horse? How did that all come about?
So it came about through Eddie O'Leary. So he was being a massive pivotal part in my career. You know, my career has taken on a whole new level since I teamed up with Henry. He suggested to Henry there was, you know, some Gigginstown horses down there, and they didn't. I'd been riding for Gigginstown at the time, and they, you know, as a claimer as well. And he suggested I go down there maybe and, you know, ride Henry's Gigginstown horses, see how I got on. And Henry just happened to have a very good summer, and it kind of snowballed from there. I started riding some of the other horses, and I suppose when you're successful somewhere, you know, you get more opportunities, and I think it all started with Eddie O'Leary getting me in the door. So
that's 2018, would that be right?
That'd be right, yeah.
And so you're still riding out your claim. That means you're kind of in that whole process of turning professional. And
my claim could have been gone at that stage.
Okay.
I can't really remember. I can't fully remember that yet.
Okay, so it's around this time where you're kind of making the decision to go pro, essentially.
Yeah, no, I was champion conditional at that stage, so I had been pro a little while. My claim would have been definitely gone, I think. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And so can we go back a little bit then to the decision to turn pro? Was that a straightforward? Was it an obvious thing for you to do at that point?
No, so that was never something that was really on my radar to do, and it's all thanks to Shaq Hanlon that happened. he set that in motion. I was riding out for him at the time, and I was in college as well, and college had finished up, and he just came to me and said, I think it was around this time, I think, this time of year, he came to me and said, look, I have a lot of horses there for the summer. He said he'd have a lot more opportunities for me if I was to turn. It was going to be a big help that I was able to claim 7 off 9, 10. So, it was a situation where I didn't have anything to lose. So, I said, why not? And, when you have someone like that with a yard full of horses willing to support you, that's a no-brainer, and it was an incredible opportunity for me to get. So it's a massive thanks to him that I'm, here in the first place, I think.
And was it a no-brainer, or did you kind of go home to your folks and say, here, listen, I know I said I was going to get a job, but actually I'm going to become a professional jockey? What was that conversation like?
Look, I said it to them. They're extremely supportive. Spoke to Gary Cribben about it, and spoke to a few close friends about it. And it's not turning professional isn't like other sports, I suppose. It's whatever works for different people. Some of the best riders in the country are still amateurs because of their weight. Nina and Katie never turned because of their situations, and they were doing so well as amateurs. So it just depends on everyone's situation. They were, everyone was very supportive, and look, as I said, there was nothing to lose there. I wasn't going to be leaving behind a glittering career until the point field or anything. So it was, it was worth giving it a shot anyway. I knew the rules, 25 winners and I'd be allowed to turn back. So I knew that was there as well before I did it. And I think the main incentive I had to do it was, I thought I'm never going to ride out my £7 claim if I stay as an amateur. There's one race a day on the track for amateurs, usually a bumper. They're extremely competitive. So I thought if I'd any hope of riding out my £7 claim, this might be it, and Shark was going to back me, and so it was. I'm glad I did it now.
I'd say so. Yeah, it worked out okay. Come here. Do you change then as a professional? Like, does your attitude change? It's a stupid question because obviously this is now your full-time gig and you've committed to it, and so obviously clearly something changes, but how would you describe those changes, or what changes did you need to make then to get to the next level?
As in me as a person?
Well, yeah, and even just your approach to the day-to-day, like where this is now what you've committed to doing for the next number of years really to get to that point. Like, do you change your strength and conditioning? Do you suddenly have to start talking more to various trainers and and like agents even, and all that kind of stuff? What was that process of becoming a professional like?
Slow. It took me 6 months to ride my first winner. But I got a massive amount of support from a lot of different trainers. Denise O'Shea was very good to me, Liam Lennon as well, John Nicholson, Sam Curling, Ellery Holden, loads of them were very good to me. And I think when I would have ridden for them as an amateur as well, and their support going through was a big help. And then me as a person changing, I don't know, I suppose I was a bit older, like I was 25 when I turned, or even was I 26? I was a little bit older, had a bit more life on my side than, we'll say, younger people who turn conditional at 17 or 18. So that was probably a bit of a help for me as well. So
you're not a kid anymore?
Yeah, I wasn't a kid. I definitely don't feel like a kid now anyway.
Well, I think that's really interesting. Like, the Irish sport is full of people who, we would classify late bloomers by the stereotypical path of teenage prodigy, and then very early in your 20s you reach your absolute peak. But actually it turns out there's a million different ways to reach the top.
Yeah, I think I read a quote the other day that Henry said, I'm probably going to quote him wrong now or something, but did he say I was a 10-year overnight sensation. And that's kind of how it feels, you know, like it took me so long to get going. But you know, when things finally did click, it snowballed quite quickly. And, you know, the last few years have been unbelievable, way beyond my expectations. But you know, it's something that I was happy to keep kind of plugging away at with the glimmer of hope that something might happen someday.
Yeah, just come in on that, Ger. Did you talk about, like, Rachel, remember yourself, like, when you were champion conditional, I don't think you were allowed riding the conditionals, the Martin Pipe, because you were too old. Wasn't there an age restriction on it?
Yeah, there was.
That was
gone this year. That was gone this year. I tried my best to get the rule change when I was there. I failed, but yeah, like I definitely will probably hold the record for the oldest champion conditional that ever was, but I don't mind.
Why did you keep plugging
All
away?
records are good records.
That's true. Why? Because I love riding. I love race riding, love riding horses, love jumping, love racing. And yeah, that's just what kept me doing it, I think.
Were there moments where you were thinking, actually, you know what, I will just go and get a different job and not keep doing this? Or was
I think my amateur days, I was in college, so I was able to, psychologically, it was okay because I was in college, so I was working towards, you know, I don't know, being educated or, you know, having college behind me. So it happened quite quickly that when college finished, I turned conditional, and, you know, I was riding a lot more. Even though it took me a couple of months to ride a winner, I was riding a lot more, so I was getting more experience. You know, I was getting money into my HRI account for these rides. So no, there was never a moment when I thought, you know, I won't do this anymore. I've been so lucky that when, like, turning conditional completely changed my life and changed my, you know, career opportunities in racing. You know, it's been unbelievable since that's happened.
And when did you get good?
When did I get good? Probably when I started getting legged up on horses that were able to run a bit faster than some of the other ones. Like the more you ride, the more you improve. I think, you know, like when I look back at my first winner and stuff, like I've definitely come a long way from that, I think. But I think it's just riding and practice and being out there. And, you know, I got a you know, good summer of riding under my belt when I turned. And yeah, you know, practice makes you better, essentially, you know.
So when did the confidence come that you deserved to be a full-time professional and you were deserving to get on the horses that you were getting on?
I don't know, there was never a light bulb moment like that or anything. I to be honest, I'm still pinching myself at the horses that I've been, you know, getting the opportunity to ride. But I think any jockey would be like that. You know, to get the opportunity to ride these horses, it's just it's incredible, and it's very few people in the weigh room get that opportunity, and I'm very grateful to be associated with the owners and trainers I am that, you know, give me that opportunity.
Rachel, you mentioned Jigginstown there. Do you think, you know, Jigginstown horses are ridden, they tend to be up in the first three all the time, and you're quite a positive rider. Do you think actually your style of riding and those horses actually suit each other well, and that's obviously been an ingredient into your success?
Oh, I don't know. Look, every horse likes to get ridden differently. There's plenty of them that I've ridden positively that might have benefited from not being ridden positively. Henry does like having his horses ridden positively a lot of the time. It's a straightforward way to ride them, you know, keeps out of trouble and whatnot. But yeah, look, I don't know. I was lucky for Gigginstown. They were extremely supportive of me, and you know, I suppose when you ride winners for people, the confidence they have in you grows a little bit, and yeah, that's probably a big help.
I suppose one thing as well, you kind of mentioned there, just when you were transitioning sort of from amateur to professional, like one of the things Shark would have said at the time, that like when you were an amateur, you didn't have access to better horses. And then obviously when you're turning pro and you have that summer and you know you're going to get rides, that must have just helped build your confidence too, and technique as well.
Yeah, definitely technique, big time. Like, look, I was going point of pointing, and the money that's involved in point of pointing is incredible. You know, it's a proper industry. It's extremely important. It's you know, it's people's livelihoods on the line here in these 4 and 5 year old maidens. So, you know, you couldn't be expected to be getting on the better horses there when, you know, the top guys are available. Like, that was never going to happen. So it just seemed to work out for me to be able to ride an 80 to 95 handicap hurdle, claim 7 off something, and get my opportunities that way. You know, I am quite light, so to be able to do that weight was definitely a big help for me. And, you know, it meant I was still racing and, you know, doing what I wanted to do. And like, look, it worked out for me. You know, I was in the right yard at the right time, and that's what a lot of, I think, success, you need to be in the right place at the right time.
Do you ever think yourself and Shark seems like a sort of unlikely partnership? You know, if you come across Shark and you just wouldn't, I don't know, it's just he's an amazing man and a brilliant trainer, and obviously brilliant for you. But I mean, you must have been even a little surprised that he did take such a punt on you at the time.
Yeah, I suppose I rode my first winner for him on the track, and in a point of point. I was in college in Limerick, and I, you know, came up and down to ride out for him whenever I could. I did a bit of a stint there full time as well. So yeah, look, we definitely had a strong, you know, relationship built before he suggested, you know, I wasn't this random off the side of the road that he said, come on in here and turn conditional, you know. He knew me. He'd been giving me as much of a chance as he could. You know, he probably has more point of pointers now than he did back then, but he was giving me as much of a chance as he could. But, you know, his foresight to see that he had, you know, more horses on the track for me to get opportunities on was a massive deal.
Did you grow up dreaming of being a jockey when you were in Killinall running around the back garden?
Yeah, like I definitely dreamt of being a jockey, riding in races, you know, watching the Grand National like everyone else, you know, fantasizing about riding in it one day, and, you know, all those kind of things. But I could never envisage that being a jockey would have been my career, and how I'd be living at this age. That was never something I dreamt of, because it was never something I could see as a reality. I think I wanted to be a vet when I was in school. Academically, that was always going to be a Mount Everest to climb. So I'm very lucky that I'm able to do something else.
So
Who was your favourite jockey, Rachel, when you were a kid?
Go again, Tom?
So who was your favourite jockey when you were a kid, when you were looking at the Grand National? Who did you want to be like?
I suppose my first kind of spark into racing, we went on a school tour and we saw Istabrack. That was massive to see Istabrack and Charlie Swan. You know, even though I wasn't really watching racing properly when he was riding, I wish I was, but I was probably just not fully clued into it at that age. You know, Conor Dwyer winning a war of attrition for Mouse, and that was a local trained horse. And probably when I got into racing, then, you know, even though there's, you know, the likes of Davy Russell, but he's still there, Ruby Walsh, you know, they were all people I looked up to, and, you know, Nina and Katie as well.
Well, whether you like it or not, all the kids now are going to want to be Rachel Blackmore.
That's okay. I want to be Rachel Blackmore as well.
Cool.
That seems to be working out for you. So there was no obvious pathway for you as a kid, like galloping around pretending to jump over the Grand National fences, for that kid to become Rachel Blackmore today. How do you kind of look back and go, these are the key decisions that I made that allowed me to end up being a jockey? Like, when's the first time you ride out? How do you even get into that?
To be honest, I look back and I kind of say, like, what just happened? How did this just all happen? But it did. So I don't know. I'm not going to read too much into it. I started riding out for Aidan Kennedy when I was in transition year. Got a lot of rides pointing off him. That was a lot of experience under my belt as well to have. So that's kind of where I started riding out.
Before that, you obviously were on a horse and thought.
Yeah, sorry. So I grew up on a farm surrounded by horses and ponies. I would have done hunted when I was younger, pony club games, evented then in my teens. All the normal kind of pony club stuff. We would have done it all. My parents would have trucked me, my brother and sister around the country to everything that was on. So, had a serious amount of riding under my belt. So that is that's a massive thing, to have all that experience. It's a massive help.
That's the kind of the hard yards that you do to kind of learn how to interact and communicate with the horse. And then when does the light bulb go that it's the racing, the specific part of actually being in a race and trying to beat the other horses, that was the thing that you wanted to do?
Yeah, I always kind of liked, I would have preferred when I was eventing, cross country would have been my favourite, I suppose. I loved playing pony club games, teams of 4, races up and down like that. I loved playing pony club games, and we went to the RDS with the Tipperary pony club team, and we won there twice, and it was quite competitive, and I loved that. And one of the ponies that I used for pony club games was very fast, naturally. So we would have been kind of friendly with Jack Doyle, who would have been doing a lot of pony racing, and I don't know how it happened, but anyway, we ended up bringing this pony to a pony race, and that was kind of the first taste of racing that I had.
And then you're hooked. Did you win that?
My first one was in Glen Bay down the beach, and the ground was quick. Pony didn't like it, so we didn't win that day, but we won the next day. It was like lashing rain. It was borderline, probably should have been called off. Horrendous weather, but the ground was soft and the pony liked it, so we won that day.
It's funny how you're still bitter about the first one as well.
Yeah.
I'd say I blinked and I didn't know what was happening. Pony racing is you think Cheltenham's competitive? I'd say that's even more so.
But it is mad how that whole kind of architecture exists here, and from that we have the champion jockey at Cheltenham this year. That it's not an accident that the industry exists and is so broadly spread out that so literally kids who are at Pony Club over the next couple of weeks, whenever they're all allowed to go back to it, they can dream of being RACHAEL Blackmore. It's a fairly amazing thing that we have.
Yeah, it's incredible. I suppose with regards to pony racing, I only rode in a handful of those races, maybe 4 or 5. But when you look at the lads who are champion pony race riders and what they've gone on to achieve, it's a massive help for young jockeys.
And obviously now the whole race academy exists, and people can go there, and if they want to get into it, there's loads of different pathways to it too. It's just really interesting to kind of hear how people sharpen their skills and get to the level of proficiency that you've got to, where you're now this week the champion Cheltenham jockey. We should just talk a bit more about Cheltenham too, because it was a pretty rough week in terms of the number of falls that you had as well. Physically, as the week progresses, how are you actually feeling?
Oh, fine, sure. I fell off 2 of them, and it was soft enough falls. No, my falls were fine, thank God. So look, that's just part and parcel of it, unfortunately. And I probably took 1 or 2 too many that I would have liked to for my own pride. But unfortunately, that's the way it goes.
I mean, do you think just you're an aggressive rider, that's one of the reasons that you do end up in situations, I suppose, in situations that because you're riding better horses and they're competitive, that's why you end up getting falls at Cheltenham and you're not out the back pooching around. You can get just an easier fall out the back too. Look, 2 of my falls were, I fell off, the horse didn't fall, so I would have shimmied on my own balance and fell out the side door.
yeah, the other two just happened, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know what to say about falls really.
It's just it's mad that the week is so high and then there's so lows, and you've got to be able to deal with them, and then quick blink on to the next race.
Yeah, like it's, you know, there's no race in Cheltenham that you don't have to be 110 for. You know, owners and connections have been waiting all year with these races in line for their horses. So, you know, it's incredible. You win the champion hurdle, it's brilliant. But you know, you've another big day the next day where there's a lot of hopes and dreams lying on the horses you're riding again. So, yeah, it is an intense 4 days, but you know, it's where if you call yourself a jockey, it's where you want to be.
And at what stage during the week do you think, oh, there's a chance here I might win the whole thing?
Oh, I don't know. I never really let that cross my mind. I don't think. You know, we all see things in racing change so quickly. I remember thinking last year, you know, Paul would definitely be, champion there, and then, you know, Barry Gertie. You know, it just it's mad how things happen. You know. Yeah.
And like in terms of career highlights, obviously the individual races, the specific moment that you win those races, or when you give Honeysuckle a squeeze and you know that she's got more left in her and you're going to win, that they must be incredible. But in terms of overall achievement, is this something that has kind of properly sunk in? It's like, well, that is an absolute moment in a career, because sometimes people don't celebrate these things until years later, and you're like, actually, you know what, I should have celebrated that at the time.
Yeah, like it's really is massive. You know, I don't know, can I really comprehend it now, to be honest? You know, racing is such a constant wheel, you know, where right now Cheltenham is kind of over now. We're on to Fairyhouse, then Aintree, Punchestown. But there is something just you can hold on to Cheltenham a little bit longer than other times, I think. So yeah, look, it's incredibly special, but it's such a big deal. I don't think I've really it hasn't really fully hit me yet, you know.
Did you check the papers the next day after Honeysuckle? I don't know if you saw this. We had a video of it here that we showed on the Daily Cheltenham show that we were doing, and like literally on the front of every single newspaper was you and Honeysuckle at a very important moment for racing, you know, because obviously racing's reputation, particularly in the UK, had been dragged through the gutter, and there was a lot of concerns about it. But then all of a sudden there's this full morning where literally every single newspaper had you guys on the front of it.
Yeah, look, it's unbelievable. I can't say I checked them then, but my mother has a big stack of them for me, and phenomenal to have those. Yeah, you know, I really did get the sense that people were delighted to have something, you know, good to cheer about for the week. And you know, that goes back to what I was saying about, it's an unbelievable moment for me when I cross the line and I win personally, but it does affect so many other people as well. And like it's more even heartwarming that it's bringing so many people joy. You know, I've genuinely gotten a lot of letters off people, you know, of congratulations, and like it's just so nice that someone would go to the effort of writing a card and putting a stamp on it, and you know, putting it in the post, and like it's lovely. And gotten so many messages, and you know, on my phone and social media, just like people are so nice.
Who's writing to you?
Loads of people. Do you want me to go through the big list of people?
Well, if you, like, I'm just interested. I mean, are there a lot of young girls writing to you?
No, not necessarily. I did before Cheltenham. I did go through a little spell of getting letters from like kids in like first, second, third class, and I'd say it was like on the school curriculum in primary school to like, it must have been on letter writing, because they all came in like 2 or 3 week bursts. So yeah, that was definitely funny. Some of the handwriting is way ahead of others, so those teachers need gold stars, I think. But no, it's not just young girls, not at all actually. It's everyone. It's all people, yeah. Because
I do get the sense that there's a new audience for racing that you're part of an attraction for. Like just these conversations I've been having with people that it is important to talk about this, as well as it being the end of a glass ceiling for women in racing. I know you're always reluctant to talk about this, and I totally understand it, because like you end up getting thrust into the role of somebody, an ambassador, when actually it's not. It's your job. But sometimes it's actually worth us taking a moment to pause and say, actually, it's not a straightforward line for young women to get into sport, in any sport, to get the coverage that they deserve, to get the level of attention, and to get the equality that they deserve. That sometimes when there is somebody who makes it all the way there, I think it's important that we mark that.
Yeah, look, racing needs to be very proud of the fact that, you know, across the board, from stable staff to officials to doctors, you know, to management, you know, it's a 50-50 world. You know, I'm a jockey. I get paid the very same as everyone else. Like, I just don't like to talk about it as much, because it's not a big deal in our industry. But I think that in general is something that racing should be very proud of. Because
it is a big deal in other industries as well, where we don't have that level of equality. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why it's worth having that conversation and just remarking on it. And look, I think probably there needs to be more jockeys who come through, and you know, we could definitely do with more. It's not quite 50-50 in the fields just yet.
Yeah, look, it's not, but the Anya O'Connor works in race, and she was saying that you know, 50% of their intake were girls this year, or last year maybe. You know, so they're seeing a 50-50 in the racing school. You know, there's plenty of girls coming through there at the moment. I think Siobhan Rutledge, who you were speaking to a few weeks back, I think she's particularly good, and you know, I hope that she gets very well supported in the coming weeks. And yeah, look, hopefully that'll encourage more people.
I think, and that's exactly it, and it's part of an ongoing narrative and an ongoing story, and any of the changes that happen are going to be really important. And especially when we look back on this in 20 years, and hopefully there is 50-50 in the fields at that point, you're like, yeah, these are all kind of important staging posts along the way to get to that. There was one other thing that I did want to ask you about, in terms of if you could go back and do the Gold Cup again, do you change horses in retrospect?
I haven't even mulled over the Gold Cup yet. I'm still getting over it. I don't know. Look, it was, you know, there wasn't much between the two of them. But yeah, it's a bit late for me to say that now, I think.
I mean, it wasn't a bad week all told. It was, you know,
I had an incredible week, an unbelievable week. From, you know, an incredible week. It really did. You know, but Henry de Bromhead trained the champion Earl, champion Chase, and a 1-2 in the Gold Cup. Like, that has never been done. That's really is phenomenal.
What is it that makes Henry de Bromhead such a great trainer?
He's an extreme attention to detail, I think. He, you know what, yeah, he's just very good at what he does. You know, he treats every horse as an individual. He spends a lot of time improving what they need to improve. You know, if it's jumping, that definitely gets improved down there. He's got a great team around him. Davy Roach is head lad. You know, he's a very good system, and yeah, he's just very good at what he does.
It must be amazing to be part of that team at the moment, in the form that you're in and in the form that the horses are in. It's like this kind of there's very few sports teams ever that reach that level of excellence, where everybody who has a key role to play is at an absolute peak. It's like very rare that you see this. You see it sometimes. The All Blacks had it for a while, and Manchester United in '99, when they won the treble, had it. Liverpool had it for about 18 months there, and you guys have it right now.
Yeah, look, it's unbelievable. But you know, Henry, you know, it's you know, all the, Aidan Coleman, Jack Kennedy, you know, they were part of his big three for the week. So it's not really me that's has any influence on that. You know, I just feel very lucky to be on these horses, to be honest. Henry's got a massive team of very good owners down there, which is a big help. And you know, he's a very good trainer because he's very good at dealing with his owners, I suppose, as well. You know, so to be able to have those kind of horses in the yard is the stepping stone you need to get success in Cheltenham.
And obviously, as you said, the season, it's an ever evolving rolling ball of winners and rides to come. There's the small matter of the Jockeys Championship on the line. It's very close. It's neck and neck between yourself and Paul Townend, and there's loads of big races still to come as well. So presumably that's a target. And then, as you said, there's Aintree and Punchestown. Like, how do you plan this out in your head? How do you just make sure that you stay as sharp for the next 2 months as you have been for the last 2 months?
I think you just don't try and plan it out, maybe, and don't try and get too wrapped up in it. You know, you go racing every day. You want to get on the best horses you can. You know, Gary Cribbin, my agent, is extremely good at that. Yeah, you want to go there. You want to get on the best horses, and you want to try and get them to win. And you just take it day by day. I think in racing you can't think too far ahead, or you can't plan too far ahead, and that's kind of the approach that I take anyway.
Yeah, well, it's working really, really well. Rachel, it's great to have this time with you so close to the Cheltenham success. Like, literally the whole country is behind you. I don't know if you, I mean, I presume you feel that now when you've had a chance to kind of read through some of the letters, but it was a phenomenal week where everybody's stuck at home watching telly, and it's winner after winner after winner after winner coming in from you. So literally the whole country was behind you.
Yeah, look, it was incredible. And as I said, you know, very, very heartwarming. And yeah, I just feel like one very lucky girl. Well,
congratulations, and thanks a million for joining us today.
Thanks a million, Ger. Thanks, Tom.
It's Rachel over there. Yeah, so look, everybody's texting in saying how amazing the success is and what a brilliant ambassador. Friday Night Racing brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Tom, it's hard to put context on this. You know, we've had Irish jockeys win champion jockey at Cheltenham before, but in the spectacular fashion that she did it in, I think it's important that connection with Honeysuckle is there. It's like, it's not just a ride that she got booked on as a spare. She's kind of been there for the whole way through, and Honeysuckle itself is such an amazing story.
Yeah, I love the Honeysuckle story. I really do, Ger. You know, like I said, we were around there at the start when she made her debut on the racecourse in Fairyhouse back in November, 2018 or whatever it was, and then she progressed, won a listed race at Fairyhouse, kept on going from there, and like, she didn't even go to Cheltenham in her first year. You know, she was kept at Fairyhouse again and won the novice grade 1, and then in her second year as a hurdler, then she went obviously and won that mare's hurdle, as we saw her beat Benny Dieu, another brilliant ride by RACHAEL Blackmore. And then, like, it's just that brilliant level of progression that she's had over these sort of 3 years. It's really kind of culminated, particularly in those last 2 wins, obviously at Cheltenham. But I think, like you said yourself, that performance at Leopardstown at Christmas was really breathtaking too, and just those 2 last wins in particular. And obviously, look, everyone's at home now, everyone's kind of watching a lot of racing on TV. You're not getting to go racing, you know, everyone's locked in, particularly at Cheltenham and Christmas, so many people saw it, and that visibility is just so important as well. Yeah, and look, I get the impression that RACHAEL Blackmore is a reluctant ambassador for being the first woman who has done X, Y and Z, but at the same time I do think it's important to mark these things, because loads of other sports aren't doing this, and there does need to then be that follow on, which is great to hear that Race are having a 50-50 split in the academy as well, so loads more to come on that front too. I want to tell everybody about what's coming next week, a very special show from Fairyhouse Racecourse ahead of the Easter Festival. Barry Garrity's going to walk us through the last furlong of the course. Obviously, he had Grand National success on Shut the Front Door in 2014. We'll also have a panel of previous Grand National winners. Nina Carberry and Robbie Power are going to be with us to preview the Easter Weekend Festival. You'll be able to catch that across all of our social channels on Good Friday. That's next Friday at 3 p.m. and of course on Off the Ball and News Talk from 8 next Friday evening as well. And I do want to tell you about the unfortunate situation. Johnny's not here this week to rub it in, because he had a pretty good Cheltenham Festival when it came to the Gold Cup.
He had Manila Indo in his tote 10 to follow. I unfortunately didn't, so he has regained top spot. It's close though. Johnny the Expert 477.88. Me, who knows nothing, 433.48. So there's 40 points in the difference, and there's still a month to go. 8 bonus races left, including the Aintree and Irish Grand Nationals. Remember, the Tote versus SP price guarantee will be available for both the Irish and Aintree Grand Nationals on tote.ie. My thanks to you, Tom Malone, for being part of today's Friday Night Racing. We'll see you next Friday afternoon, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Good luck.
Friday Night Racing
On Off the Ball.
brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.